What's up guys, you're watching Blastaway.eu and today's review is about the Han Solo blaster and the blaster from Rey. So starting with the blaster from Han Solo, which is probably one of the most iconic weapons from movie history. Well, at least in terms of sci-fi. The way it works is basically like a mega magnet, so you pull back the priming slide and then you can reach the internal magazine right here. This one holds like 4 darts and you just feed them in like from the top, which is pretty easy if you compare it to like the Magnus. Yeah, that's definitely a plus. So performance is a little bit lower than like the standard elite performance, which means it doesn't shoot as hard as a fire strike, for example. The other thing that I noticed is that the dart fit, like from the breech, is rather loose, but this is probably due to like an easier feeding of the darts. But on the other hand, if your darts are rather worn out, yeah, they don't really disengage the air restrictor. So what happens is that the loaded dart doesn't really leave the barrel. And now showing you what I mean when I talk about worn-out darts. If you have one of those and you put them into a fire strike, for example, you see that the air restrictor keeps pushing it out. So it doesn't really disengage the air restrictor, which means you can't really fire off the dart. And this is what happens if the foam is not really stiff enough and there's not much friction in between like the dart and like the breech in this case. And this is what happens also with the new Star Wars blasters. If you feed those in, you know, they don't really shoot because the air restrictor doesn't really disengage through loading the dart. So on this side of the blaster we have a little button to unjam the blaster. I have never really used that because yeah, I didn't really have any jams. Apart from that, what's kind of annoying is there are a lot of warnings written on this side, and usually it doesn't really bother me, but with the new Star Wars blasters it's just really a lot and dominant, and yeah, it's kind of worth mentioning. Also worth mentioning is the trigger pull, which usually is never an issue, but with this one it's just not as crisp as with the other blasters. So yeah, you have to, like, you know, you see I push it here, but I mean I pull the trigger and you know it doesn't really react, so it's really at the very end of the pull, so that's kind of, you know, noticeable, but not a big deal. Other than that, I mean, the blaster is yeah, as I said, iconic, and of course it will have a lot of fans, but if you put these whole Star Wars movie reference aside, it's not really the best Nerf blaster that you can get. So if I had to choose between those two blasters, I might go for the Rey Blaster. For me, personally, I like the aesthetics a little bit more, and also the trigger pull is a little bit better. Other than that, it works completely the same way. It has the internal magazine, which holds 4 darts, and basically performs the same way like the Han Solo blaster. So apart from the missing scope and like this more angled handle, there's not much difference between this one and the Han Solo blaster. So the one thing I want to mention is that I'm wondering why like the Rey Blaster and also the Han Solo Blaster turned out to be like this big, when the first one, the Stormtrooper Blaster, was like this small, you know. I mean, if you put it like next to each other, you really couldn't come up with the idea that like these two blasters actually, like, you know, originate from the same line. Especially since this one is supposed to be Rey's blaster, which is a girl or woman, and the fearsome stormtroopers use like a little tiny pistol like this, so something's not really right with this one. Of course it makes sense if you consider like this blaster holds like 4 darts internally, and also with all the mechanics, but still it doesn't make sense to me why Hasbro decided to make this one so small when it's really easy to have it, like, you know, a little bit bigger. This one really looks like a toy for, like, I don't know, 4-year-olds, and this one is just massive. Not that it's a problem, but you know, it just bothers me. So that's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment and also let me know in the poll which one of these two blasters you actually prefer. And by the time the next movie comes out, I'm sure Nerf is going to release even more blasters from the Star Wars universe. So with all the other releases this year, 2016 is really going to be awesome in terms of Nerf. So yeah, it's the best time to be a fan of this hobby. Don't forget the like button. I see you next time.